it's Shawnee. Welcome back. Today's video is one in which I will be telling you the palettes I used the most over this past year. So, I'm just gonna jump in. They are in no particular order except the palette I used the mostest over the year is going to be the last one that I talk about. So here we go. Now, one neutral palette that I got a lot of use out this year and that I don't hear anybody talking about is the Colored Rain Rebellious Nudes palette. This is just a really nice nude palette, and I think that it's one that many different skin tones can use. You've got this top row here, or well, if you take out the shimmers. So you've got this row. I think it's really good for lighter skin. And then the middle row is pretty good for like tan to medium. And then you've got this bottom row that is excellent for deeper skin tones. And then the three mattes at the top, you can pair them with literally any shade here and it's gonna look good. It's gonna be a really nice and pretty neutral look. I got a lot of use out of this year, along with their eyeshadow, their paint-based eyeshadow base. I used those pretty much for almost every eyeshadow look I did this year. So I'm really glad that I got usage out of this. I don't think that Colored Rain gets like the props that they should. And hopefully they start releasing some more stuff this upcoming year. So Colored Rain Rebellious Nudes. Now, Cosmic Brushes is a brand that I got into this year, and there are two palettes from them that I use the most. The first is their Serenity palette, which is their first palette release, I believe. Now, I didn't get it on release, but all of a sudden I saw so many people talking about it and talking about the shades, and I looked at it, I was like, oh, look at those blues and greens and ooh, all the pretty colors. And so when it came back in stock, I got it along with just about every other palette that they released this year. So whenever I want to do a very colorful look, I will pull a Cosmic Brushes palette out, and typically this is one of them. This shade here, it is named Oasis. I thought, like, what's that doing in there? But honestly, I did a look with it and it was so pretty, okay? And I just enjoy, there's a lot of mattes in here and I think they're very blendable. You can layer them to get more of a boom pal look. And yeah, I've just enjoyed using this palette and will often use it when I'm looking for these shades for a colorful look. Along with Serenity, the other one that I used a lot is Delicious Delights. Now this one surprised me because initially I was like, oh, am I gonna like it? It's super pastel. Like, I feel like I bought it and hadn't really like paid attention to how pastel-y some of the shades are. But I have to say these shades are so pretty and they definitely show up and look good on my skin tone. So I did like a couple of pink looks and I wanted like, you know, some to it. And I used these pink, like pinky purpley shades here, and it was so nice. I often will pair this palette with Serenity because I think they play well with each other. Let me see if I can show you. Okay. Oh, no. Okay, so here are the palettes together. You can see, I feel like they're pretty complementary. The only thing I don't like is that I really wish these pans were magnetic. I would go crazy, okay? Because I love to do a build your own palette. I feel like I can do that many at the later part of this year, the latter part of this year. But if these were magnetic, that would be it. That would be all I need from them. Also, like, I get anxiety with Cosmic Brushes because every release they have sells out just like that. I don't know if they don't make enough. I have no idea what it is, but it causes me such anxiety. So if they can make these magnetic and if they could just not, you know, increase my anxiety at every launch, perfect. Now, Blend Bunny is a brand that I also used a lot this year. In comparison to last year, I used their Surge palette a lot. This year, I used their Blends palette so much. Oh my gosh. I was getting a lot of use out of this palette, and even so, it like barely looks dipped into, right? Like, what is that? How is that possible? Now, again, along with Cosmic brushes, I would say that Blend Bunny is the other brand. When I was doing really colorful looks, I would go to the palettes I have from them. So I use this one so much, and I would say probably every single row and column was used in a look over the past year. So this one feels very much like a staple like rainbow palette, but then you also have your neutrals down at the bottom if you just want something like super easy to put together. So really enjoyed the Blends palette, and I think it's gonna get used a lot more, or just a lot period, in next year. The other palette from Blend Bunny that I'm actually surprised makes I use this the most cut is the Lure palette. There's the front. And again, I think I was just really into like pretty bright colors this year, maybe, but this is one that I really enjoyed for pretty much like the columns that are here. Like, they each kind of have their own look, or you can mix and match, but I think if you're wanting to step into some more color and you need things to be kind of laid out a bit more for you, you've got your 6 shimmers at the top and then the corresponding mattes underneath them. So this is a good one, especially if you want a colorful palette with a mix of mattes and shimmers and nothing that's like too big. So what is this? It's 24 shades, I think. So yeah, probably easier. Well, they're like very similar. I think are there more? There are like 30 here if I want to, I think. But look at that. You get most of the mattes from the Blends palette, and then you get these 6 shimmers at the top. So I think if you're looking for something like the Blends, but you want some shimmers, the Lure is a good choice. Alright, another one that I did not expect at all is from Melt Cosmetics. It is their Muerte palette. Now, when this first came out years ago, I was like, OMG, that looks so good. And like, look at the depth of color here. The richness of the colors just makes me, I don't even know what it makes me want to do, but it makes me want to do something. The only one that's kind of iffy is this shade down here, which is Calaca. And I've actually found uses for it. It's just not as like creamy as you would think. It's a very like powdery textured kind of shimmer. It's sort of weird, but I think when you put it on, it just looks really, really good. It's just getting there and figuring out how to like incorporate it into your looks, I would say, or you could always use it for something else. What I sort of figured out, I think, this year is that Melt's palettes, their pans are magnetic. I had no idea. So I actually really like that too. I just sort of prefer a palette with magnetic pans. I don't know, because I do. So I would love if more brands made their palettes magnetic. But this one especially, I got a lot of use out of the reds. Like, why did I do so much red this year? But every time I was like, I need a deep red, which actually I felt like my goal of the year was to find like a deep red matte, and I couldn't find the perfect one. Then I was like, the Muerte palette, and that is what I will go to for most of anything that I did with a red matte. Shades came from here. I did use some from like the Blend Bunny, but I just feel like these just showed up so well and gave me the depth that I really wanted. I would say I didn't use this side as much, so I will make a mental note to like use this more this year, or this coming year. I was just really surprised. Like, it is one that I'm really glad that I got. I do wish that I had like jumped on the bandwagon earlier and got the Vita palette as well, so I could have Muerte and Vita. That would just make things just lovely. And I do still see the Vita palette on the Melt website, but I'm like, I'm okay. Like, I'm just gonna keep Myricks and keep it pushing. So yes, I know some people don't like this palette. I know some people don't like Melt, but I've been down with Melt since they had their stacks. All their eyeshadow palettes were actually stacks, and then I remember when they switched over to doing palettes. So I've been, you know, I've been with Melt for the long haul. Okay, another palette that I got a lot of use out of is the Natasha Denona Retro palette. I actually typically get a lot of use out of my Natasha Denona palettes, period, every single year. And I did, like, if I were to do even more like palettes I used a lot this year, it would have pretty much all of her palettes on there. So the Retro is definitely one of my favorites. Do I have this one on? I don't have this one on today. I have on the My Dream palette, which I would say is my other favorite that came out recently. I just really like this palette. I think it's really cute. I am really into mauve tones and pinks and everything, and so this palette kind of just speaks to me on all levels. So I would say this is the Natasha Denona palette I use the absolute most this year out of all of her other palettes that I have. Now, another palette that I used was my Focus palette. I used that thing like, where is it? Let me find it so I can show it to you. So the Focus palette, if you were here at the beginning of the year, is a palette of 12 mattes from Sydney Grace that I wanted to just focus on for the year. Now, I have taken some of the mattes out and put them back where my matte singles go, but this is some of the these are some of the shades that I was using. I will say that I use this palette about 3 times a month, so at least about 1 time a week, which is a lot because I do my eyeshadow a lot. So I think I did really good. I didn't pan any of the shades. There is one shade. Where is that? What was I doing with that shade? I don't even know. It's a deep, like, chocolatey brown. Y'all, what is the name of that shade? Keep Smiling. That's the name of it. No idea where it is right now. I think it's back in my matte book of shadows. But I used it a lot. I do wish that I used it even more. I think what I'll do is I will still get or keep a Focus palette for this upcoming year. I think I'll narrow it down to like 4 shades though. I'm definitely gonna have that Keep Smiling, is that what I said a minute ago? Definitely gonna have that brown shade in there and maybe like 3 other shades. So rather than using this big like 12 pan, I'll probably use something like this, which is a 4 pan. It does have some shimmers from Copacetic in there, but I think a 4 pan is gonna be even easier to use, and maybe a goal will be to hit pan on that brown shade. I really think I can do it. Now, the palette that came out this year, later this year, or the latter part of this year, and just changed my entire life is the Danessa Myricks Groundwork palette. Now, this is the Danessa Myricks Beauty Groundwork Defining Neutrals palette for eyes, brows, face, and lips. And there is a velvet pomade and then also a like shape and fix powder. Now look at the packaging, really pretty, very like luxe. Everything is described as buildable, blendable, velvety, and having rich color. Now, since I bought this palette, have been using it almost daily, okay? Almost daily. Now, it is one that you have to get used to just because there's that velvety pomade and then there's the powder. And so it just definitely feels like nothing I've felt before. Like, I don't know what she done did, but Miss Danessa this year, she was like, I'm coming for everybody. She did things that are so, where's that towel? I don't even know. So innovative, so creative, so different. Everything is like multi-purpose. Like what? Her mind is like magic, okay? Like, I don't even know. Like, I think I'll do a video of like all the Danessa stuff I consistently use and show how like multi-purpose everything is. So let me know if that's of interest to you. What I also like about this thing here is that the pans are magnetic, so you can take them out. I have, where's the magnet? Yeah, I can't find anything right now. Okay, here it is. Magnet. You can take them out, and they have the name on the back, so you can put them right back where you want to because the names are also like on the shades. Now, like consistently, I used this shade to do liner. I use this shade for contour. I use this shade for bronzer. I use this shade for color corrector. I use this shade for brows, and sometimes I'll use this shade as an eyeshadow along with some of the other shades. So the ones that I don't get as much use out of, oh, actually I've used this shade for like primer for my eyeshadow sometimes. I don't get as much use out of, what is it? This shade here. Maybe this shade and this shade. Other than that, pretty consistent. You can see that there is pan here. It's also because of how it's a pomade, so kind of shifts around. There was also pan in here, but there is again a pomade, so it shifts around. So you can kind of like make it look like there isn't one. Let me see. See? So I think one of you said that she is going to have refillable like pans for this, and that's all I need, because obviously if you have something like this, I do think there are a range of skin tones that can use it, but of course different skin tones might get use out of other, like some shades over the others. So I just know I'm going to for sure run out of this one, this one, this one, and this one. These four, Core, Harvest Bark, and Tourmaline, are the ones that I use just all the time. I know I'm gonna run out of it. So I just need, I don't necessarily want to buy a whole new one again. I don't think that would make sense. But if she doesn't come out with refillable ones, I will buy a whole new one. I don't want to. I feel like that's not real cost effective, but the fact that I literally use this thing like daily lets me know that it is a staple in my everything, in everything that I use. Every single makeup thing, for brows, for bronzer, for contour, for liner, for corrector. Like, that's so many different categories of product, right? So this is the greatest of all time for this year. I am like, I love it, okay? And I don't hear as many people talking about it as much. I know I use it a lot. Jessa uses it a lot. But let me know if you have this and what you're thinking of it, because, girl, it's probably going to be empty this time next year. It's probably going to be empty by mid-year next year. Whew, I think that's it. So this is everything that I used the most over this past year. I do have like a category 2, I guess I would say, that I use like the second most. There are a lot of eyeshadows in that one because I have a lot of eyeshadows, but I just thought it was really interesting to see what I use the most this year. So I think that's it that I have for you today. I do hope that some of this was helpful, and I also hope that you are continuing to take care of yourself. It seems like so many people have gotten sick this time of year, this year. I would love it if you like the video, and I would love it even more if you subscribe to the channel. Be sure to leave me a comment. Let me know, do you want to jump on that bandwagon of doing a focus palette for the next year? What palettes did you use most this year? Also, hope, pray, burn some incense, whatever, that Danessa comes out with refillable pans for the Groundwork palette. Or just leave me a comment and say hi. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.